Governor.
All right. Good to see everyone. Thank you for being here. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I certainly want to thank the policymakers that we have standing with us. I know it's a very busy time for them. A lot of our advocates as well, and hard-working Georgians, and just really appreciate you all taking the time to be with us on today. I know, for one, that I am glad this day is finally here. I know Commissioner Black feels the same way, and all of us know that Georgia has a great team fighting hard for us in Washington every single day. Secretary Perdue, Senator Isaacson, Senator Perdue, and many of our congressmen, including Austin Scott and Sanford Bishop, who worked very hard on this issue for many, many months. Also, the hard-working Georgians that are behind us that continue to advocate for their position, to continue to make sure that Southwest Georgia was not forgotten with a lot of other stories that were going on at that time, and certainly Commissioner Black and his hard work and the department as well. As you all know, after Hurricane Michael hit and wiped out crops and devastated communities, they took action. Even when faced with a broken system at times, and despite repeated delays, they refused to back down or waver in their support. In the fall of 2018, Governor Deal and the General Assembly stepped up and allocated $270 million to help support early relief efforts. This was critical, I believe. That investment at the beginning stages of rebuilding our devastating communities in Southwest Georgia sent a strong message that we were here for our farmers and our farm families and the people of South and Southwest Georgia. There are families farming today that may not have been able to continue without the leadership shown by our state leaders at this time. We were also proud to add an additional $22 million to that amount last session. Together, state and federal officials, along with everyday Georgians, made sure our voices were heard. We made sure the stories of Georgia farm families were known in Washington, and we said it again and again and again to make sure no one forgot that. I want to thank the leadership of our President Donald Trump, Secretary Sonny Perdue, and the others that I have mentioned for their tireless work on this effort. Georgia has received $347 million for our disaster relief efforts. And today, Commissioner Black and the Georgia Development Authority are starting the process of letting those farm families know how they can apply and receive those funds. I again want to thank Commissioner Black, as well as his team at the Department of Agriculture, all those hard-working staff members who got this process organized and is leading us in the block grant process. And finally, I want to thank the people of Southwest Georgia. You all never gave up. You kept fighting, and today we're glad to be taking a final step in this process. I hope that you know that Marty and our girls, we continue to pray for you, and we'll continue to pray for you in the days ahead. We know that this was a generational event, and it will take a long time to recover, but we continue to fight for you. It's now my honor to turn over to our Agriculture Commissioner and someone who has fought like a bulldog, quite honestly, on this issue, our Commissioner of Agriculture, Gary Black.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Governor Kemp and First Lady, and ladies and gentlemen. Governor, in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, I think you'll remember that we flew together. We consoled families together. We gasped together, and we prayed together. Hallelujah, today we can rejoice together. How about that? That's a good thing. 16 months ago, I stated to many of you that while Georgia annually led, and we still lead, thank goodness, but we annually led in the production of many agricultural commodities. Unfortunately, Hurricane Michael placed us in the category of leading the nation in destruction from leading in production to leading in destruction. But now, thanks to the strong will and tenacity of our Farm Recovery Task Force, the best staff of any Department of Agriculture in America, and the cooperation of our federal partners, I am delighted to announce that on March 18, 2020, Georgia will again lead, but this time we will lead with a laser focus on reconstruction and recovery. Georgia's Farm Recovery Block Grant has been approved, the enrollment date is set, and help is finally on the way for our farm families in rural communities. Georgia Department of Agriculture will administer a $347 million grant for timber, dairy, beef, poultry, fruit and vegetable, and pecan producers. The program will also include a plan to address certain losses for uninsured infrastructure. Enrollment will begin March 18th and close at midnight April 8th, 2020. The program will work exclusively from the platform www.farmrecovery.com. From now until the enrollment commences, producers are encouraged to visit this site for announcements and information, including the current checklist of documentation that will be required for participation. We anticipate making 2 payments to eligible applicants. Our goal is to move swiftly. No one will approach being made whole, but our hope is that these resources will help restore a measure of confidence in the marketplace. I must extend gratitude to many outstanding Georgians who've been a part of this journey, starting with the chief executive of this state. Tenacity's been a call word with this governor, and I'm grateful for his friendship and his leadership. I want to thank Congressman Austin Scott, Congressman Sanford Bishop, Congressman Buddy Carter, David Scott, Rick Allen, Senators Zigston and Perdue, and certainly our entire delegation who stands with agriculture every time we ask them to. We're grateful for their leadership in shepherding many of the different components of this package through the maze of Congress, and it's indeed been a maze. I want to thank also to it's an amazing thing to have the experience to stand with the President of the United States and invite him and introduce him to the farm families that were hurt. This president cares about agriculture, and I'm grateful for that. And without his signature, without President Trump's signature on this package, we all know how vital and essential that was. I want to give thanks to the 20-plus members of our Farm Recovery Task Force that I appointed just last June to help with the development of Georgia's state plan. This group of agricultural leaders kept us on mission through the summer, the fall, and the early parts of the winter. But now we can celebrate today. I am very grateful for the Secretary of Agriculture of the United States of America, Sonny Perdue. We adhered to his challenge to, quote, do right. Y'all know that is the motto of this Department of Agriculture, to do right and feed people. Mr. Secretary, we've done right working with your team throughout this entire process. Our USDA federal partners today are represented by State Farm Service Agency Acting Director, Ms. Diane Westmoreland, State Conservationist Terrence Rudolph, and State Rural Development Director and my former GDA colleague, Joyce White. My former counterparts from Iowa and Michigan, Undersecretary Bill Northey and his Chief of Staff, Jamie Clover Adams, rendered great service to the state of Georgia during the closing steps of this approval process. I want to thank Dr. Sam Pardue, Dean of the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences, University of Georgia, Dr. Laura Perry Johnson, and the fantastic extension faculty who assisted in developing the formulas that we will use. Governor, parenthetically, I'd like to say we have a great affinity for similar economists. Dr. Jeff Dorfman started with us on this journey before you appointed him. We've got good taste. And he's been a dear friend for many years, and was essential to our effort in the early days, particularly. A great note of thanks to Dr. Francis Fluharty, Dr. Lenny Wells, Dr. John Barnard, Dr. Greg Fonza, Dr. Lee Jones, Dr. Brad Hines, and many, many others at our flagship university who helped us get where we are today. I want to thank the Georgia Department of Agriculture colleagues who have invested hundreds of hours on this project since last June. Our Director of Emergency Management, Vanessa Sims, our Director of IT, William Rutherford, his Deputy, Maris Wynn, our GDA CFO, Jimmy Wilson. Jimmy's work is cut out for him with $347 million, we would say, but I'm glad we have a skilled hand at the wheel. Our Director of Communications, Julie McPeak, our Design and Communications Specialist, Aaron White, GDA Counsel, Ashley Sellers, my exec, John West, and lastly, I want to thank a young man that's exhibited great wisdom and leadership throughout this entire process. And he's way beyond his years. One of my senior policy advisor, Bryce Trotter. Now, having said all this, let me be very clear. None of these people, absolutely none of them, are available for service of any other agency in the state or federal government. I am very honored to serve with you. Thank you all for your support today, and God, please grant us wisdom at this phase of our recovery efforts. God bless you.
Questions, if you can just let them know who you would like to answer the question.
Commissioner or Governor, both maybe, this is an exciting day, but it's a bittersweet day too, just because so much time has passed, and there are farmers who likely haven't been able to keep farming because of all that time. What's your message to them? What are you thinking about when you think about them right now?
It is a there are farmers that did not farm this year because of the tardy nature of this process. I don't think we slam the process now because we need to be in a windshield mode rather than a rearview mirror right now. I think we're sensitive to that. I'm thankful for this General Assembly, these leaders that stepped up last year. We administered $74.8 million, 276 loans averaging $280,000 apiece to producers that, but for that leadership of this body, this governor, the former governor, that they would, many of them would not have farmed. But I am hopeful that there's a word of calm that will proceed across the marketplace, and hopefully opportunities. I hope that we can take a lesson. I hope we could take a lesson from the bipartisan leadership nature of the Georgia delegation who's worked together to help their state. And perhaps we can learn this delay, we can learn a lesson so it won't ever happen again.
Commissioner, do you have an estimate after the enrollment, like how long it might take for the money to trickle down to the farmers?
Yeah, Jill, it's a little hard to say. When I say swiftly, I'd like to say I believe this will be a springtime activity. I certainly don't want to go into other seasons of the year before we're finished, but we'll be working on that. I think it's really important. Everybody here can add, and you can tell the calendar here. But we're announcing today. It's 3 weeks from today is the start, and then the enrollment is 3 weeks. It's very critical, and we were very dedicated to this from day one. That we wanted three weeks to promote this so that everyone knows. We'll be in Macon and Tifton later today. Our partners at Farm Bureau, the other media outlets, their social media packages that I hope you'll let our communications team assist you with. So everything each of you can do to help Georgia right now is very important. And your presence here is very, very much appreciated because we got to serve these families.
Governor Kemp, when it comes to another hurricane, if it hits Georgia this year, hopefully not, how prepared is the state in helping out farmers going forward if there was another situation like this?
Well, look, I think every disaster we have, we learn from it. We certainly have in this one from, just the state-federal partnership. But we're very fortunate. I stepped in office day one, had a very experienced team at GEMA, Department of Ag, Chuck Williams Forestry Commission is here. Just all the public-private sector partners that we have at the command center is really, I think, as good as anybody in the country. One of the reasons is we've been through a lot before I got in office, so we have a very seasoned team. But we just have to continue to prepare for what you don't know is coming. And I think Georgians can feel good and sleep good at night knowing that we have an experienced team and that we will react very quickly. And I think really this goes to the point of how quickly the state reacted when we were having issues in Washington. I mean, the legislature acted under Governor Deal's leadership. We acted again last year. We sent a real message to everyone in Washington that, look, you need to do something we already have. Not many other states did that. And I think that's because we've had great leaderships. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about people that are standing with me and behind me and people that were here previously.
On that note, any lessons learned from this process? Because it still took, it's more than 500 days since the storm hit. Anything the state can do better next time or to pressure Congress to act quicker?
I think that'd be a great question for people in Washington, D.C. I think you can see the bipartisan nature of the people standing with me today that was in this building during that time, and quite honestly, we need a little more of that at the federal level on certain days. I mean, look, there's always partisanship in politics, but when you have a disaster, it shouldn't be. And hopefully it won't be in the future.
I think it's important too, Governor, when Congressman Austin Scott and Congressman Sanford Bishop came together and worked within the appropriations process last January to establish the level of $3 billion for agricultural relief. Now, that's not just us. That's not just Hurricane Michael. That's preventive planning activities in the Midwest, a lot of things. They'd hoped it would be a hurricane first, but all those other disasters got added to the pie. But that was last January. It took until June to pass a bill. And that's tragic. The other part of the timing here that's very important is that, ladies and gentlemen, this has never been done before. There's no handbook for this. We were very aggressive in our asks back in June, in July, and August. Some parts of the things we thought, we asked the federal government to match the $75 million for the loans. And we really had that in a level of discussion at one time, but they just determined they couldn't. But there are many elements of the program that took step by step, all of us working together. I can tell you the United States Department of Agriculture wish it was done, was over with last August too. But we have an excellent plan now, and that it's on us to go do as good a job as we've promised them that we'll do.
Governor Kemp, thank you for this information. Could you also update us on the state's preparation for coronavirus, especially at the airport?
Yeah, I don't want to bog down in that with the issue at hand today, because we really need this message to be going to our farmers out there, have them getting ready for the process, and let the department and the hardworking people there get to work. But I will tell you, we have been on conference calls and in meetings for the last 3 weeks or so in preparation for the what if. We're thinking very far ahead. Hopefully that day will never come, but again, we have a great team. I've been on 2 conference calls myself with the President's team, with Secretary Azar, Dr. Redfield, Ken Cuccinelli at Homeland Security, many of the nation's governors and public health officials, which Dr. Toomey here is very experienced, and she's been in communication with all the county level partners, because that's where the response come from. The administration in Washington understands the response happens at the local level. They have been working on that for weeks and weeks now, and we'll be ready for whatever comes, and hopefully it won't be much, but if it is, we'll be ready to respond.
Commissioner, do you have any estimate on how many applications you might get, what the size of each grant might be, any sort of information like that?
That is the question of the day. No, and the answer right now, I have no idea. One key element of our plan that we've held fast to this tenet since day one is we think it's important to have an enrollment first, and then because that's what's going to happen. They're going to be responding by commodity in a universal application, and then we will. We hope in maybe in a couple of weeks after enrollment that we'll be able to assess the data, then enterprise it by commodity based upon the demands and needs and balancing just how far. $347 million is a lot of money, but it's not when you had $2.5 billion worth of damage. And so how do we properly do that? How do we work with our task force to enterprise that? Then the formulas that we have developed that over the course of time, some of you, if you care to get that deep, we'll be able to share them with you. But that formula will be applied within that bracket of enterprised amounts. And then and only then will we'll be able to determine, does our formula need to be factored by 0.7 or 1.1? We don't know that. And so that was we just believe that's the right way to do it. It's a more responsible way to do it, and that's what where finally, comes kind of the end of the fall, we got USDA to kind of go along with that approach. And by the way, we are the first state to be approved, and I'm hopeful that our efforts may have contributed to some more constructive ways to do these things in the future across the country, and which was actually a leadership challenge we gave to our task force on day one, is maybe we have a chance to change history a bit so that future farm families will be served in a better way.
I'm sorry, folks, we're going to have to cut it off. If y'all want to grab Commissioner Black, Ms. Julie